What distinguishes Charter from most other like organizations is that we run candidates and have run candidates successfully for office. Charter started off because we were at one time considered the worst governed city in the United States, and it did create what became the best governed city in the United States. And since it did that, and since it's been successful in doing that, and its legacy is more than a legacy, it still goes on, Charter is a unique political organization in the United States of America.
By the 1920s, Cincinnati, known for its German heritage, industries, and baseball team, was also known as the worst governed city in America. A system of bossism had been choking the Queen City for over 30 years.
Because that's the kind of thing that you used to have in this country, and we had a prize. Believe me, we were had a machine that was the equal of, I guess, any place in the country.
George Cox, architect of the powerful machine, passed the organization to Rudd Heinecke in 1914. Boss Heinecke's power reached into every corner of city affairs. All public service contracts were given to Rudd's political cronies. Heinecke controlled the vote with over 10,000 jobs, payoffs for political loyalty.
They could get you jobs in the city, working for the city government. They could get you jobs working for the traction company, which had to get a franchise from the city. They could get you a job working for the gas and electric company, which had to get a franchise from the city. There were all kinds of jobs that they could arrange for you. Mm-hmm. You usually had to have the recommendation of your ward boss, and it was this aspect that endeared the organization to the slum wards of the city.
The status of blacks in the Cincinnati political scene was virtually as vassals under ward chairmen. Negroes felt that they were Republicans and voted Republican blindly. And in all the wards where Negroes lived, there was a white ward leader with Negro precinct executives who did their bidding. And most of the rewards of employment went to the ward leaders.
The horror of World War I caused Americans to plunge themselves into an era renowned for gambling, gin, and dancing girls. Rudd Heinecke, fattened by the profits of bossism, bought a chain of vaudeville theaters. He moved to New York, where he ran his theaters and the city of Cincinnati from his backstage office. Nicknamed the burlesque boss, Rudd telegraphed his instructions to Republican leaders. Cincinnati's tax dollars paved the road to his racetrack, while the rest of the city struggled through muddy, potholed streets. 4 of the 5 city newspapers were Republican-controlled. He continually covered himself with the mantle of patriotism and called all who opposed him un-American.
Captain Victor Heinz returned from World War I and found Cincinnati to be a sinkhole of corruption. And like Cincinnatus, the original Roman general who left the plow to go off and defend the city-state. He came back and he wanted to have our city be worthy of defending.
Heinz called together a group of prominent men to form the Cincinnati Association. Among them were Charles P. Taft, Henry Bentley, and Murray Seasongood. These men were well educated and idealistic, and they wanted a change.
They were all Republicans. The wealthy, white, wealthy, middle class citizens were Republican in Cincinnati.
Everything was wrong with the conduct of the city. We were at the lowest point. The whole city was degraded.
Many civic groups began to raise their voices in protest.
Then there was another group that was active, the progressives. And there were people in that group, led primarily by Herbert Bigelow, of the People's Church.
Nobody could paint the Promised Land more gloriously or even more graphically than Herbert Bigelow. He was a very successful orator.
The progressives fought for social justice and wanted the poor to have a voice in city politics. 1 month before the election in October 1923, Cincinnati sponsored a debate, as was the custom. Murray Seasongood took the floor.
The time has come to cut out every extra tax levy that will give that bunch a chance to squander money. Make them produce on the goods they have, or get out.
Two papers had reporters at that meeting. The Commercial Tribune the next day quoted Murray's speech and didn't even mention the name of his opponent in the debate.
The shot heard round the wards, as it came to be called, so angered Republican leaders that they made the mistake of attacking Seasongood.
If they just kept quiet and let that, there it was, and let it go out, that would have been the end of it. But instead of that, they attacked me very vigorously. The Times-Star referred to me as a Bolshevik.
For the next month, Seasongood fought back, speaking before groups all over the city. People wrote to him and telephoned to encourage the fight, and also passed him inside information. He began to organize a coalition of civic groups to change the system, and asked Seasongood to lead the fight.
After this thing, they said, what's the next step? They wanted to do something.
Henry Bentley would fight and die for anything he believed in.
He was the Flo Ziegfeld, the producer. He was the brains.
Bentley called on the women who had voted for the first time in 1920. Among them was Agnes Hilton.
My Aunt Agnes was founder of the Ohio League of Women Voters and also of the Cincinnati League of Women Voters. She was a militant feminist and before that a suffragette. And she was militant about improving city government.
They formed the Birdless Ballot League so that you couldn't just put a mark under the eagle or under the rooster and that would automatically vote the whole ticket. So the City Charter Committee was born within the Cincinnati Association almost.
In July 1924, the Charter Committee launched a campaign to get their new city charter on the ballot. The charter called for a birdless ballot, a merit system for jobs, a 9-member city council with a city manager, and a controversial system of voting, proportional representation.
Proportional representation made it possible for different groups to be represented because it ensured representation exactly equal to the representation of the voters. If 44% of the voters were charterites, four candidates were elected.
The Republicans knew that the new charter would mean an end to their power and profits. Alarmed, they planned a counterattack. To confuse the voters, They added 2 other charters to the ballot and attacked the reformers as un-American.
When my father went to meetings, as he did many nights a week, I was frightened that he wasn't going to get home. I think it was because there was so much slander of my father in the paper.
By the fall of 1924, they had enough signatures and the campaign took off.
The League of Women Voters was active in elections, particularly for issues. The League and the Women's City Club were extremely important to Charter. Really, the women organized on a block-by-block, precinct-by-ward basis. The women made it possible for the men to make the decisions.
It's time for the people to assert themselves and vote for the new charter.
On November 4th, 1924, the turnout was massive. The new city charter was voted in by a margin of 2-1, defeating the Heineke organization.
The people have spoken, changing the city's charter. Furthermore, for the first time, we will have a 9-member council and a city manager.
As they celebrated, at least one charterite was thinking of the future.
And once they got the new charter organized, Henry Bentley said, I'm going to create a political party, a disciplined political party. It will be a coalition of all these various groups, and we will get together and nominate a slate of candidates, and we'll have a ward organization. We're going to have workers at the polls. We're going to start a real political organization.
Bentley persuaded Seasongood to lead a slate of independents and Democrats, and in the fall of 1925, they swept into office with 6 of the 9 seats.
One of the things they've demonstrated is that you can not only fight City Hall, but you can take it over.
The new council elected Seasongood mayor and hired Colonel C.O. Sherrill to be the first city manager. In the next 10 years, with citizen support, they made Cincinnati a very modern and progressive city. The merit system eliminated corruption and graft. Proportional representation made it possible for black candidates to be elected. We will honor the sacred ideals of the city. Alone and with many, we will foster a sense of public duty. We will send forth this city greater and more beautiful than it was bequeathed to us.